Well, hello. Good morning. Good evening. Good afternoon. All right, we're good to go in there.
Yep, you are great to go.
Awesome. So thanks for coming tonight, ladies. Appreciate it. I hope you'll join us online whenever they decide to join. So today was really, my name's Stephan. Today's a meet and greet. Really I wanted to have a meet and greet where we were discussing it to kind of understand what you guys are looking for in workshops. I know that you usually, for instance, if you go to the Apple Store, they have preset workshops. There's certain material. You can't really ask a lot of questions. And being in that past history, I realized how uninvolved the learner was in the process, and that really affects the learning process when you're not involved. So we wanted to make it more hands-on, more involved, and really give you what you want. So offer the classes you're looking for. So today, before we start, I start with a quote. Can you read it from there? Is that okay? That's kind of the way I like to lead, and then I like to discuss kind of a little bit about us, kind of figure out who you are, introductions. We'll go through types of workshops. We'll have a workshop discussion, like a Q&A, kind of understanding like what we have, what's available, and then what you want to see.
Okay.
Sound good?
Absolutely.
Cool. So introductions, pretty much a couple things: name, favorite tech tool, and favorite smell. There's something crazy in there because it's a little bit of an icebreaker. But we'll start with Andrea, since I met you first.
Okay.
Go from there.
Andrea is my name.
Hello again.
Favorite tech tool. I have the MacBook. I like them all, but I use them at the very minimal capacity. So I'm very limited in my knowledge. Even something as simple as organizing my files into different folders, and I even learned the other day that I haven't been actually making a backup of my stuff all this time I thought I was.
Let's take notes while you talk.
So the most rudimentary things I would benefit from learning, and then clearly I don't even know what else is available because I'm so limited in my knowledge.
Okay. We all start from somewhere, so it's good that you're able to see where you are, and then we can work from there.
Okay.
Definitely.
Terrific.
Yeah, definitely. And what's your favorite smell?
Oh, well, I like lavender. That's probably one that I'm drawn to.
Very nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
My favorite tech tool, well, I have two actually, my camera
Okay.
and my computer, which, again, I just got, well, actually, I've had this for almost a year. I got the 15-inch MacBook, and I took a lot of those classes down at the store, and they're not giving, I even do the one-on-one. I paid for the one-on-one.
Oh, yes.
And most of them were pretty good, but some of them were really disappointing.
Okay.
I had a lot of questions, and they really weren't answered.
Okay.
So then I'm off on my own, searching for
Takes a
answers.
lot of time.
And it does.
It does. Yeah, from experience, I definitely know. Yeah.
You can Google anything, but you're not necessarily going to get the exact information that you're looking for.
And you're not sure if the source is the right information.
Exactly.
Right.
Very nice. Okay. So it seems though, and have you done one-on-ones also, or have you stayed?
I've done some classes more through my company.
Okay.
They brought people, but it's been sort of like this, more of a seminar type situation.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. Well, my name is Stephan. My favorite tech tool is my iPhone. I feel like it's the only device that's really kept me sane over the past couple of years, and then organized, as well as I have a little boy, so pictures are like, when you have kids, pictures they're bazillion pictures. So it's been great. And I say favorite smell would be him, my little son. Yeah,
Aww.
I like him. Yeah, the way he smells is great. And Lori, how about you?
Hi, I'm Lori. I'm drawn to all of the Apple technology.
Okay.
I dabble a little bit of everything. I've even played with the iMovies, and there's just so much more I know it can do. It's just I know just enough to make it a little bit dangerous, but it's like I know that there's so much more.
That's my exact sentiment, really.
Enough to
I would like to have more organization. My iPhone, it says it hasn't been backed up in forever. I delete stuff. It's still not helping. I don't know how to put things where they need to be.
Okay, so organization again.
Organization, I'd love to have the calendar remind me of certain things, and There's just so much I know, so much more I know it could do. Even like with my battery, how I can get the most out of my battery. Like my kids will say, don't charge it, let it run out. I don't know anything about that, you know? Mm-hmm.
Very nice. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, guys. We'll go to the next topic. And is there anyone online right now that you know of?
Not right now.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we didn't skip anybody.
Just keep
So
going.
really the question is, I know a little bit about like where you are in terms of what you're looking for, but what really brought you here tonight? Like what was if you had to choose two things that you wanted to accomplish with your technology, what would those two things be? And you can speak freely as you please.
I think kind of what Larry was saying, understanding the capabilities, whether
Okay.
master all those things or not, just understanding what the capabilities are. I mean, like she was even saying the phone, I know there's more sophisticated things that I could be using to help streamline my life or organization, what have you, but I don't know how to I don't even know what it's capable of, but to know to utilize it.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm trying to see here, and with that said, do you have any goals outside of like organizing yourself and linking yourself to your technology? Like, are there certain goals you like? Lori mentioned iMovie, so maybe like you might want to master a certain program. You know, maybe your company has you work in certain programs that are on the Mac that you're not really comfortable in.
Well, I actually was recently looking at the iPhoto and the iMovie also, and so yeah, that's interesting. Really, understanding even just how to operate the machine in the most optimal way, because I just get frustrated and I turn it off and then let it come back on.
All right.
I mean, I'm telling you, that was rudimentary that I just...
Well, you have to start somewhere. So I started knowing nothing about Apple when I first started on my path in technology. So my wife knew more than I did, and that's not saying a lot because she doesn't know much either. So it definitely was interesting. So I definitely understand the pain the inconvenience it causes in life when you don't know what you're doing or how to use it properly or effectively. Really is the key word, I think, more effectively than anything else. And do you have any goals?
I have two. Well, one is I've gotten fairly organized with it the more I work with it, but there's still a lot more to learn.
Okay.
But my other thing is learning to master, because I want to use it more for creativity, like for my photographs and I started working a little bit with iMovie. I took like this 3-day class on iPhoto and iMovie.
Okay.
And I'm just fascinated with it, and I could see so much that you could do with it. So maybe delving more into that, and how can I integrate also, I use a lot of the Adobe.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So the Photoshop, and right now I'm having fits with the iPhoto's not compatible with not Photoshop, but Lightroom.
Okay.
And I'm trying to bring photos in to edit them, and there's no easy way, according to what I looked up the other day.
To import the photos?
So yeah, to import the photos from iPhoto. And they have my whole iPhoto library set up on an external drive because I don't have enough.
It's the same thing with me also. As you saw, a little machine, it's not enough to hold anything.
So I don't even know if I'm in the right machine. You know, should I sell this? I could have gotten a desktop with like 1 terabyte of memory in this humongous screen to see everything I need to see, and maybe just use my iPad, because a lot of the programs are apps as well.
Yes.
And since everything syncs, I could still be somewhat mobile.
Okay.
With between my camera and my phone, having that app to bring the photos in that way from my camera, even not even using my iPhone camera, but my regular camera.
Okay.
So I'm kind of more interested in like learning the creative programs a little bit deeper.
Do you have an interest there too, Andrea?
In learning that?
In the creativity?
Absolutely, sure. I would actually just like to learn how to delete files I don't need, even that
To clean it up,
I'm
too.
afraid to delete. And then I'll download something, and sometimes I have it downloaded 5 times, and I know that isn't necessary. But I honestly don't even know how to get rid of a file. I mean, I know that because I'm a little bit afraid to also.
Of course, deletion is a scary thing.
You delete it and it really doesn't delete. Like you got to delete it in other places too, or something.
Yeah, some programs have trash cans. Some programs send it to the trash can itself, and then it deleted from there. So, okay, these are all very, very common things that I've heard before in the past. In the past, like 6-7 years, I've been doing this. So, Definitely nothing out of the norm. And I know Adobe products pretty well, so I definitely can help with the creativity side of things. I would definitely be able to help with the rudimentary things of organization and getting to know the Mac more comfortably, but also on the more intense level, like how do I use Lightroom with the Mac? What program should I be using to import pictures? Should I be using iPhoto? There's even questions like that because iPhoto is a consumer-based product. It's not meant for a professional level. So it's designed to make it easy, but it makes your life harder when you want to be professional. So definitely understand that. Do you have anything you want to get out of this? What brought you here today, Lori, besides owning the shop?
I still want to know how I can use my phone. I have an iPad. Does anybody else have an iPad too?
I use them, but I don't own one.
Okay, so I know there's so much more you can do with an iPad as well, right? How do you do Skype? It? Do you have to download a Microsoft Word program? How do you get in that?
Okay.
And then I know that there are different programs like the Pages for Mac. I've purchased that, and that can do so much as well too.
It can. But there are some, there's always those drawbacks. So it's definitely something we can cover. So let's see here. Let's go to the next slide and see what So these are some of the types of workshops. So you have everything from iPhone, iPod, iPad, business powered by Mac. As you see there's a lot of options, but there's a lot of ones missing too. So like things that were missing, professional creativity suites like Adobe. That's something that we could definitely, have a series on possibly. Things like sharing photos with family members and friends, kind of helping you go from importing to the sharing, creating books, things like that of that nature. Is that something of interest to you guys?
I've done that.
Okay.
I've made books. I make books all the time and slideshows.
That's wonderful.
Stuff, but I lost all my photos. They all just disappeared. That was not so wonderful.
No, not at all.
And I went to the Apple store and they said, "Oh, we're sorry."
Yeah, what about the cloud? Yeah, let's learn about the cloud. I want to learn about
They said you should have put it on
cloud.
an external drive. I'm like,
what is up with the cloud?
that cloud scares me to death.
Right.
So where's that cloud?
There's
No,
only so much storage in it too, unless you.
There is.
I have that problem too with
It's
that.
popping up. It's like, no.
I know,
But you're actually
I-
limit with 3 devices. The 3 devices are sharing, correct?
Yes, if it's the same
Okay.
Apple ID.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, so I was like pulling like boom.
See
And they
that?
usually affect you the most when you share an Apple ID amongst the family. Like you're like
Oh, I don't.
you're more than person, like partners in your life, or just people in your home that are sharing the same connection to download things. That really affects the storage.
So it's best to have separate Apple IDs then.
Yes, I would say it's best to have separate Apple IDs for iCloud. But when it comes to purchases, you can share one if you don't want to buy the same song twice.
Oh, okay.
So like at home, Amber and I, we have separate Apple IDs for our iCloud, but we have the same Apple ID for purchases. That way we share the same credit card. That way it's easier for us to know that when she buys a song, I can download it if I like it, and vice versa.
I didn't know you could do. I didn't know they were separate like that.
Yeah, the good thing is, as Apple's evolved the software, it's allowed you to have more than one Apple ID attached to the device. But there's ways that you have to do it, set it up in order to make it work functionally and not have too much trouble. But we definitely a workshop on
What does your
iCloud.
Apple ID even do? Like, what would there be a benefit to having a different one assigned to a different device?
No, it would actually cause you more hurdles because, for instance, just for example, Lori mentioned the program Pages. So if you have iCloud set up and you create a document in Pages, if you save it to iCloud, every device with the same Apple ID can view that document in that program. So if you're on your iPad, open Pages on the iPad, you'll see the same document you're working on. So literally it links your everything you're doing, you're working on. It can link your contacts, your calendar. That way you're not having to go between devices and update things.
Or do you have to set up an iCloud account?
You do.
Okay.
You do.
And
And it's free.
how secure is the information you put on the cloud?
I would say it's about as secure as shopping on Amazon.com.
Oh, so not very. No.
The one thing I've learned, I've worked for Apple for 6 years. I did some training with the Pinellas County School Board. Told you about that for 2 years, implementing technology in the classroom. I now work for Gartner. I'm not sure if you guys know who Gartner is, the IT research firm. The one thing I've learned from Gartner is that no company invests in security the way they should. But I will say Apple is one of the ones that has enough money to do it, and they take a lot of precedence in security. So.
But does Apple own the cloud, or aren't those vendors that kind of lease the cloud space out?
When I was with Apple, Apple is owning the clouds. Apple purchased these large data centers in the middle of nowhere. In some cases, no hurricanes could hit them, things like that. And they were owning the storage.
But they've been selling stock in those. Like that was a big investment entity that a lot of people were investing in, and I get the feeling that these are independent people that lease these clouds to Apple amongst other companies.
It's a very common practice now for businesses to go with a third-party vendor with a cloud service. It's cheaper for them monthly to do it that way than to host their own because of the energy cost that it takes to run a data center. So a lot of them are going to this virtual cloud. I would say of all the companies, Apple is the one that when the economy is down, they invest money in research to find out what's effective, what's efficient, and what's safest. So I personally have a trust in them, but of course there's always a chance of security breaching.
Maybe not so much specifically Apple, but just generally speaking, when you're sending your information to an offsite storage facility, what can it mean? What could be the security concerns of that? Like, what are some things you maybe wouldn't want to store on a cloud?
I would say passwords.
Okay.
Things you don't want to store on clouds.
And how do you prevent it from going there if your stuff's automatically syncing to your cloud?
So like notes syncs to the cloud automatically on the phone. So I would say.
That's where I bought my passwords.
So I would say something like. If you're syncing with iCloud and you have like the Note app that comes with the phone or the iPad or the Mac, I would say that would be an area that you'd want to stay away from putting your passwords in there. Maybe get another application or create a Word document that stores them that's not in the cloud. That because you can create a PDF and put it in your iBooks and keep it there and it won't sync anywhere else.
But if you haven't set up a cloud account, your stuff's not going to the cloud.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, so nothing's being communicated back and forth with the information.
Sometimes it sort of seems like it is, because like it pops up in weird places. Like I'll go into my office and it is a different Apple ID, it's a whole different computer system, and all of a sudden it's like my notes are popping up there.
Okay, so maybe if your notes are popping up in the same notes from your wireless devices or mobile devices are popping up, then that probably means that there's a connection.
Is there a Google account that would be a connection?
Google can also do notes. Yeah, Google has syncing services. Okay. So Google is very much head-to-head with Apple in terms of syncing. So when you have a Google account on your phone, it will ask you, do you want to sync calendars? Do you want to sync notes?
Would it do it without asking you?
It would always prompt you the option. It would be up to you to tell it not to do it. It's going to default to yes.
So I was kind of like, whoa, how did all this stuff get here? It's on my work computer. I'm like I wouldn't, not that there was anything like perfectly, whatever, but just generally speaking, I wouldn't have put that information on that machine.
Understandable. So I would say in that case, you have to go to the settings. If it's a work computer, like on the premises of work, you may want to call your help desk and have them. Yeah, I feel the same way when I call my help desk.
There's a help desk?
I totally
We don't even have a receptionist.
Maybe not a help desk there. So I would say that's the case. Then I can give you one of my cards and you can call me. We can walk through kind of going through how to find it.
That's what I was wondering if you did some private consulting of like.
I do, yes. So the workshops that Lori and I were hosting, where we were thinking about having like one consumer workshop a month and one business workshop a month. That way you have both ends getting approached. But I do offer online personal consulting, but it can be online, face-to-face, or over the phone. So it really depends upon what your need is and what you'd like me to do. I can come to you, or we can do it via some kind of medium.
Great.
Yeah, so definitely very, very feasible. Yeah.
I know that you had a question before about forwarding emails and stuff like that.
Right. What I was thinking, maybe there's a way that you can kind of funnel, if you have multiple email addresses, that you could funnel it to come to a central and like I know on your phone you can say all emails or whatever, but is there a way to do that on the computer as well?
Oh yeah. Yes, almost every email client now has an opportunity in the settings where they have a forwarding section, and then you tell it has a little space for emails, and you tell it what email address you want it to forward, and it will literally just cipher it through.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Mine's
because
set up that way.
right.
Actually.
mine is too, for one of my older accounts. But yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely possible,
Okay,
and not a very difficult process,
all
which
right,
is good.
terrific. So that's the thing, like we were saying, we know what can do it. Well, let's
And then there's even like, this is maybe off the topic too, but this is something else maybe on what personal or consumer. What about like people that get sucked into, you have tasks to do and then there's social media and you're flipping back and forth. Isn't there a way to lock down those sites so that you stay focused? Seriously, like a timer or something, that there is something.
There are parental controls that we could use them for the adult, definitely. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Right?
I know what you're saying, though, because I did the same thing. I told you when I started my emails in the morning. Next thing you know, I'm here, there, and the other place.
I've got to play a game of Candy Crush.
Yeah,
And then I'll get back to
Exactly.
Right, but that is a great way of staying on task, because you'd be
Mhm.
so much more efficient. And then like even, is there like, so is that a parental control or is there a timer that you say, okay, I'm going to allot 20 minutes in the morning to check my emails, and then I'm only going to do it twice a day or something, and then it like will give me a warning or something? Is there a program? Or?
I wouldn't say there's a program. There are parental controls that you can set time limits.
Okay.
So for the usage of certain things,
Mm-hmm.
trying to think here. For an example of that would be in Pages. Like if you're working in Pages, they have a full screen mode, and that's a way to help you disconnect from your dock and disconnect from your applications. There is Notification Center on the Macs now, the new OS operating system, and it gives you the ability to turn it off or turn it on. So that Notification Center. So
yes. Okay,
so it's a little
yes,
little bar from the side
yeah,
of the phone.
I actually turned that off because that's very annoying.
So I would say that might be the first step, is turning the notification off. That way you're not getting pinged about a Facebook
Every
update
email that's
or an
coming
email
in,
that
every-
comes in.
Yeah.
So you're not getting this little bubble that pops up over your screen saying, "Oh, an email," and you're like, "Oh, let me check that out." So turning that off would be the first step I would
And your
say.
machine runs faster when you turn that off.
It does.
It seems to like drag things down a little bit.
As things run in the background, it's definitely it starts to bog down the system. So yes.
So when you do file quit,
Mhm.
that actually turns it off?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sometimes I get confused about running in the background and turning it off.
Yeah. There's actually you all own Macs, correct? So there's a light underneath each program in the dock that's running. I don't know if you noticed that before.
Yeah.
There's a very small white light under every single program that's running on the machine at that time.
Really?
And that light tells you it's running. That light, when it's not there, tells you it's not
so
running.
it illuminates a little bit, those little icons at the bottom?
So yeah, she can.
You're like, I know.
I gotta check this out.
Oh my gosh,
All my
I never
lights
saw
are
that.
on.
I never ever saw that.
Wait, I don't think I
Crying out loud.
So yeah, those are all running.
Oh my gosh, everything's probably
Shut them
lit
off.
up. Everything's probably going
It's
on.
like-
All my light bulbs are probably
It's
on.
very tiny, but.
Oh, I've never seen that. I bet you I
Oh,
missed
for
that.
Pete's sake.
Oh,
I guess
do
one
that.
thing I took away from one of my
Okay, so
classes.
but I only have that and that running, right?
Yeah, you also can.
Oh, and this.
Tab. Let's see if that'll work. Command tab, and that'll show you what's you have running. So right now
See,
you
that's
have.
the kind of stuff that we need to learn.
Oh.
So right now you have
Look at that.
iPhoto preview, and you have Safari running.
You do what to turn it off?
Do
Wait, do control
command tab like
Hold
shows
command
you
and then
what
push
you
tab.
have running.
Oops.
Hold command the whole time and push tab, and then tab will let you navigate between them.
And then how do I turn it off? If I want to say I want,
You can just say while holding command still,
okay.
you
So
can
then it
hit
switches.
Q.
and that quits it.
That quits the program. So it's either going to file and
See, there's a whole bunch of
Going
those
to file and
command
quitting.
things that you have to have like a whole code language to understand, like to know.
So you either go to the name of the program in the top left corner to delete it, to quit the program, or you could just do Command Q. It's
Do you have to have Finder running, or can you keep turning that off?
Finder has to run.
Okay, that's what.
Finder's your computer.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's the machine running itself. So
Okay.
it's always going to run. It's never going to be able to turn it off. And if you go to quit it, it actually will say relaunch. It will never say quit.
Gotcha.
I'll never quit.
What is Finder's main purpose? Is that like the I'm trying to relate it
A
to
start
a
button?
PC.
Like a start button, like the start
Yeah,
button on
exactly
the
what
side?
it is.
Okay,
It's
so
a start.
that's what it is, but it's always on.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's also a very powerful search tool.
Okay, so
And
that's
That's
basically
what I
your
use it
main
for.
where it's got all of your applications and
Exactly.
That's
So
helpful.
in Finder, you would have applications. You're going to have your desktop. You'll see a little house.
Mhm.
That's your home folder. Every user has a home folder, and every user has a dedicated home folder. So, you know, with you and Jim, if Jim uses the Mac, Jim will have his home folder on his user, and you'll have your own home folder on your user.
Mhm.
So, but this is a Finder's a great place to start. It's a great place to organize your files because this is where all your files will be found, as well as you can here. So.
I'm homeless.
Doesn't have a house.
I don't have a house.
If you need a place to stay, let us know. Be happy to help.
Potentially.
Be happy to help.
Is there a reason why that I wouldn't have a house?
You don't have a house?
Let me see.
She's homeless.
That's what I said. Well,
Unless you're in the house.
am I in the house?
No, it's just not showing.
She wasn't checked. Interesting.
So now
Now I have a house.
you have a house.
Things are
You'll
working
see
out.
In your house, you have everything. And your house is where you create. So your applications will be there as well. Like there'll be a shortcut to them. But this is where everything you create, every document, every file you save is in your house.
Well, that makes sense.
Because it's your
I
home
just didn't know I had a house.
folder.
What is the difference between an application and a program?
They're actually the same thing.
Okay.
So in essence, the basic difference would be the application has a main purpose, where a program could be, trying to say, application could, like a program application are interchangeable terms, but if you had to like get specific with it, an app would be like pages, and a program could be like you write a program to create an action. So it could be a background process running. Not so much. Does that make sense?
So anything that I would use
Okay, so a program.
as an app.
A program
basically.
written, there's a program written to tell your computer to notify you when an email comes in. Whereas an application is a program you're going to be using to create something or to edit something.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So the app you use to utilize the program.
Say that again?
The app you use to utilize the program.
So even like the Adobe stuff, that's not, even though I had to download those.
It's not you download.
Well, I know they're apps. I have the
Mhm.
apps too, but you can,
There are programs running within the application.
okay.
For every action, there's a code written for that.
Because they actually tried to discourage me from doing that. They wanted me to get
Aperture.
Aperture, which is now I'm hearing is going away. It's
Yeah,
really expensive.
A-
And it doesn't have the power that like
No.
Photoshop.
Aperture is not even I'd say a 16th of what the Adobe Suites can do. Like
Yeah, because I looked at it.
Mhm.
They showed me in the store because they had it running, but yeah, it wasn't.
a lot of professionals that use Aperture use it mostly as an organizational tool. It's an amazing organizational tool for your raw files, and it's great with like lighting. It's great with I would say that's about it.
Yeah, but I think
I'm
it's a
trying to like give it
$90
more than it
app.
really is,
Yeah.
but it just they haven't really gone to the professional level yet. It's still more of a consumer level program.
Okay.
But if you have a lot of trouble with organization, it's a great program to do that. But you don't have to do that because you can create a file system and just use your Adobe programs.
Well, that's what I need to do, I guess. That would be another one of my things is I need to create my own file system, especially for my photographs. And if there's a way to even separate them, my raw file, because like an iPhoto, I can't tell which one's the raw file unless I'm not used to the program yet.
Yes. iPhoto normally will take a file and try to put it into a JPEG of some level
Right.
or a PNG file. It's just looking to convert it to a smaller file because it's not meant to handle raw files on a consistent basis.
Okay.
So I would say if you're handling, like you're shooting raw files and you have some great shots, you're going to want to import them into the Adobe Suites and not really focus on iPhoto because iPhoto is going to cause a hurdle for you going forward.
So my first thing is how do I get them out of iPhoto?
Yeah.
And that'll be my first thing, is getting them out of iPhoto and getting them into a place where they're workable. Because right now, if they're not workable, they're like, it's like they're stuck there.
So that definitely is going to be.
For 2 hours, like doodling everything. And this one guy says, "There's really no easy way around it. He's like, download this program for free for 30 days, and then I'm like, that's crazy."
Yeah, because like I said, iPhoto. Once iPhoto puts it in that lower level resolution, it's hard to get it out of the lower level resolution to bring it up to a RAW again.
Okay.
So I would say what I've seen in the past done is I've seen people actually import their photos using just the importation feature, because you can import photos into a Mac without having to use iPhoto. The Mac doesn't tell you that,
Okay.
but it's possible.
So I just dumped like 8,000 photos.
I can do some research for you if you do want to work on that. That would definitely be more of some investing some time in it. But I definitely would be happy to work with you on it if you want to do that. I could try to find a way to get a workaround that. There's always a workaround, and there's always usually an answer somewhere. It just depends on one, if you're willing to invest a little bit of money to get to maybe undo what we've done, or just not find a new route we didn't know about.
We do have Theodore. He's in the online community. He's just hanging out and listening, and I asked if he had any questions. He said none so far.
Cool.
So to recap, we're just kind of
Let's
doing,
see here. There you go.
Just there. Stephan just changed the screen. We're just doing some sharing of what we're interested in, just different things we're running across, problems or issues, or what we'd like to learn more about. And I think there's also a couple of people in Google, in the YouTube live hangout as well. And I do have the chat open in the Google YouTube hangout too, so if anybody has any questions there.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Just writing down some notes about Jen's question. UK photos, iPhoto, need to get out to okay. So in terms of we've talked a lot about things you like to see. How best do you learn?
Hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Hands-on?
Being shown in the
Okay. Being shown. How about things like infographics or job aids? Do you feel like those things are going to be helpful? Would it be helpful to have a process sheet maybe, of a program kind of explaining this is how you do these steps here and there? Okay.
I didn't know what you were talking about. A what? Paper? Yes.
Sorry. Talking in my talking in the school language. So it's, if I ever say anything that's a little bit off, you're like, what is he talking about? Just bring me back down. I go to grad school for instructional design, so a lot of times I bring in what I'm learning into the discussion. I'm not talking to a room of IDs, so it's
That's for sure.
I forget sometimes, so it's you get used to it. So please just never be afraid to ask any question. And there's no dumb question. First of all, I want to make sure everyone knows that there's never a dumb question. I've heard that before. There's dumb questions. I don't believe that's a dumb question, because if you don't know it, how can it be a dumb question? So never be afraid to ask a question. So manuals are good. Okay. And how big of so everyone here, have you guys all been to computer workshops in some level, seminars? What size classrooms worked for you? How many students do you feel really worked for you being in the classroom? And how many were too many?
The smaller the better for me.
The smaller the better?
I don't like big auditorium rooms with that they put it all up on the, where you can't interact or ask the question, I guess. Or be like, oh, wait, my thing's not coming on. That
Gotcha.
kind of thing.
Okay.
I'd say 5 to 10 people.
5 to 10
Mhm.
people? Okay.
And if there was a way too, so we know that we're recording this in the YouTube, the Google Hangout, that might help down the road too, with reviewing it with notes
Definitely.
and stuff. And I know when I did one-on-one with you, you did record it, so I can go back and look.
Mm-hmm. So we could do a webinar feed, maybe on one of the sites, and kind of have the access to go back, I can work with Lori and figure out how that best would be fitting for the business needs also. So yeah, definitely. Okay. And do you guys feel like it would be better to have a project-based workshop, or do you feel like it'd be better to have a topical-based workshop? What I mean by that is, do you want to come in and do something and work on something together as a class, or would you rather have a topic and then we can kind of stray as we go? You know what I mean?
Is there any way to do both? Like maybe start with a topic and then progress to a project?
Definitely, yeah. You can do that. So when we saw the workshops here, we had like Mac, iPhone, things like that. There's like the Apple Store. You've been there a couple times. They have things like getting started with the iPhone, going advanced features with the iPhone. I've kind of, from my experience, I've learned that it's more. I find it better to do like iPhone 360, and then do a series of iPhone, and then but start from the basics and work your way into linking in the iPad, linking in the Mac, linking into these clouds, and trying to getting more efficient with it, and kind of going with that way. That way we're not just fitting 7 apps that Apple makes, we're hitting every part of the phone. And then also show and tell. I like doing show and tells in workshops because I feel like people can then kind of show, this is what I've learned, this is what I've done, this worked for me, this was horrible. So is that something that you guys think would be better for you? Okay.
What is iPhone 360?
360 for me just means fully encompassing. So instead of going from, so for instance, so people online, if they have a question, just so they understand, iPhone Getting Started covers things like how to use the phone, how to save a contact, how to use mail, things like very simple. And my workshops, I like to go past that. So it's how does the phone integrate to, how to use the phone, how does it link to the iPad, how does it link to your Mac. How do you link it to your other email addresses? Like, how do you link it to your Google? Maybe you're not an Apple fan and you want to use Google. How do we make Google work for you on your device? How do we do word processing on the device? So it's like becoming more of just the apps that Apple makes and more of encompassing productivity with efficiency and effectiveness in terms of how you use your device. Okay. Now, I'm trying to see here. What else do we have here? Do any of you run businesses on your Macs? Okay. And when it comes to your business, how do you feel, what are your biggest areas of performance gaps? With technology.
System, the technology, probably my lack of knowledge of how to operate it.
So would it be like, would that be better to be a project-based workshop then? That way you could bring in a project, so you can work on it, and I can kind of work with everyone in their own world and kind of get you guys going. Or do you guys want to talk about like business productivity on the Mac? Maybe staying connected through business, things like that.
Does anybody else do slideshows or anything like that? Something
Okay.
like that. I see that with business because I also see that with marketing and getting points across if you're teaching or something, if you want to.
Okay.
Or
so maybe like
presentation.
I'm trying to see what's the word I'm looking for. Publisher aspects of the Mac, like learning how to use Pages to its full extent, on how to create maybe brochures, how to create things like. Okay.
Yeah, that would like any.
Yeah, that would be really great because even people that are watching, I know a lot of them are like independent contractors, and they do readings and classes and things like that.
Okay.
And not everybody has the money to invest in a graphic designer, and I know Pages is fabulous.
It's
They do
incredible.
so much, and even for school, like college kids or high school kids, that if they can.
Yes,
With it too.
it's wonderful because they have tons of templates too. So it's like you can do a lot of things without having to build anything yourself. Just plug and play the language you want to use and the pictures you want to use, and then arrange it the way you like. So you're right. It's a very, very powerful tool. It's a word processor and a publisher put together. And Apple did that on purpose because Word can't do that. So they were like, hey, let's make it a little bit different and make it work.
Now, is Pages the one that automatically comes on your system?
No, Pages is actually a downloadable file.
Is it with the P or that's the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, yes. PowerPoint is the P. Pages is $10.
Okay.
And $10 on the mobile devices and $20 on the Mac.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. And I'll double check this to be safe while we're talking. But Pages is good because if you need publisher aspects of things, Pages is a great tool.
Mhm.
It's going to be a lot more seamless. It looks a lot more professional. They really focus on making it look professional with Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, which are the equivalent to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint.
Gotcha.
So I have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint
That's what I have.
because of school.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I have
what
it
my
also.
School uses. Now, is there a reason to keep both of them? I mean, other than the fact that if I do a Word document at home, I can't save it and take it to school because we don't use Macs at school.
Well, the good thing about Apple is that what they've done is they've made it to where if you have Microsoft Office on your Mac,
Mm-hmm.
the file format will be readable on a PC also.
Okay, but I would have to stick with the Microsoft Office to go to.
You wouldn't have to do that actually. Pages actually converts both also.
Oh, it does.
There are a couple of drawbacks. So things like really like fancy, I would say elegant fonts
Okay.
sometimes don't translate. They will put a font in for you,
Mhm.
but it will tell you this does not translate over.
Mhm.
There's very minimal compatibility issues. Certain graphics may not transfer, but overall, if it's just like a picture inserted in a document,
Mhm.
it's going to transfer just fine. Yeah, it's
Okay. So they've improved a lot of that stuff.
that was actually a couple of years ago. They really
Okay.
tried to. For my first 2 years of working there, they put a huge focus on. Now it's like in 2009. They put a huge focus on making it compatible. They really wanted to make sure it was seamless, because they knew that people were buying these and they were going to work, going to class, and they couldn't go between both. So it's pretty seamless now. There are some drawbacks, but I always say, for instance, that my go-to is always like I'm still in class. I would always tell my group or my team, I would say, one of us will create the PowerPoint, and everyone else will just send us a very blanket slide over. So it's like if you're working on a team, I would say if you like PowerPoint, use PowerPoint, but just have them send you slides that are blank, like white and black text. That way you can make them the way you need to make them. Because sometimes the slides just don't work the way you like them to, with the builds and transitions and things like that. But yeah, they're definitely translatable.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. Well, that's one of the reasons why for years I didn't buy a Mac, because it seemed like then I would have to have two computers or trying to tote things back and forth. And it was,
Now the good thing about Macs, if you don't know, is that Apple actually for a number of years now has the ability to run Windows on it. So if you have let's say you're big on I'm trying to think of a program that's strictly Mac. Well, let's say, for instance, like my job at Gartner, they use PCs.
Mhm.
I can only log in on a PC. It's just what it is and the way their system works. But if you need access to, like, say, a link messenger or some kind of program that they have require, you can install Windows on the Mac either as an application program or literally boot into a Windows machine on your Mac. It's called Boot Camp.
Interesting.
It just takes a little bit of memory off your hard drive.
Mhm.
You allocate a little bit of memory to that, and then you're able to install Windows on it. And then you have two machines on one piece of hardware.
That's good to know.
So,
it says I have Pages, so I guess that's good.
So would you say that Microsoft Office would be a good workshop to have also
Mm-hmm.
on the Mac?
Mhm.
Because I mean, I'm well fluent in those programs also, and those things offer different features that the iWork suite doesn't offer, which is the Apple version.
Mhm.
Or maybe a Microsoft iWork compatibility workshop.
Because I have both the iWork and the Microsoft, and I don't know which one, I just use the Microsoft one because I'm more familiar.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I usually use Pages because I'm more comfortable there because of my background, but I have Word and I use Word all the time. So it just depends on what the task is, and we can discuss that also, like knowing when to choose which program.
Yeah, what's better suited for what purpose?
Mm-hmm. No.
Like in the sanctuary, the PDFs, they're created with the Pages too, where we put the picture in there too, with the font and everything.
Very nice.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
That Amber's doing for me now.
Yes.
Mhm. You helped her do that.
That's right. I was there. I was there.
You can do so much with your photography, though.
Yeah, I just looked at some of those pages tonight before I came. They were really nice.
I mean, like with your photographs and
Right.
stuff, you can do brochures and everything. She's a professional photographer.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
There's
definitely.
so much
And with
Okay.
Adobe's Creative Cloud now, you have
There's a lot on there.
the
that-
cloud is incredible.
If you're familiar with that,
There's that cloud again.
Yeah.
Pretty much think of it this way. Adobe said professionals need access all the time,
Yeah.
but we can't give them every tool that comes in Lightroom or in Photoshop. So what they've done is they pretty much strip it to, like, I wouldn't say bare minimum, but they give you the needed tools that are most commonly used in their behavior analytics, and then from there they're able to offer an online service, which is like monthly, like $10 a month, but you get full access to edit from there. So that definitely is something we talk about also if you down that road of creativity.
And I just downloaded that, and actually our school district just offered it for, after I paid like $100 for it for a year. Like 2 days later, my IT guy says, "Oh, we have that now. We offer that," because they offer us a lot of the, Microsoft Office and all that stuff, like for $10.
It's a blessing.
or whatever, for the whole suite. And so I got a whole year of Creative Cloud, the whole thing for $10.
That's amazing.
So
I'm
just
paying
ready
$10
to
a
go.
month.
Yeah. Well, I was paying $20
That's-
as a teacher even, which was still great for like all that software.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the power that they house in those software is incredible for the money you're paying.
Yeah.
You just can't keep it with you, which is, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm more of a disc guy. I still buy CDs, you know.
Yeah. That's
So-
hard to get used. That's a little hard to get used to, not having it,
Like
all
on,
the time.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what about like iTunes too, and the iMovie, like all that stuff?
So
Mine's a mess in there.
Yeah,
How do you
mine's a
organize-
mess. I don't even know what I have.
I know, where'd that go?
Yeah, and why is it there? Why is it in iTunes?
Why do I have 15 of those?
Right, and I just, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
once they switched to the cloud and I got my new phone,
Mhm.
I'm like, where's all my music?
Right.
And the guy's like, well, do you see that little cloud right there? I said, yeah. He's like, you gotta I said, I have to re-download everything?
Oh.
that's not
so
right.
basically, you have to
Like,
re-download
It is.
everything onto my phone after it was there, like it wasn't
Well,
here. it
you can
wasn't
also
there. It
That's
was
nice.
anywhere.
That's concerning.
Because it's
It was up there.
because it's your phone, you also can not download it.
That
Did he
is
show you
nice.
that?
It is nice in that way, but I don't see, now that I've got it, I don't know how to put it back.
Oh, just
You know, so-
delete it off your phone. You
Oh,
can
just
swipe
delete-
it
oh,
and then
just swipe
delete
it
it,
off?
and then when you delete it, iCloud remembers what you purchased, so you never lose it.
Oh.
Never lose the history
So
of
the
purchases.
cloud will always stay there.
That's
but-
the reason why they did it that way, because people were deleting
Oh.
things and losing things. I'm like, oh god, what do I do with this? And then it takes Apple more work on their end to figure out how to
Right.
give you a purchase back than to just give you access to them all the time.
Or you're using up all your memory, which I
Right.
could see that was a good reason to do that, because, yeah, I would have to.
Yeah, which brings an iTunes Match, which could be definitely a feature too.
Okay.
So is the cloud like a Google Drive?
Very similar, yeah. The only thing is, with Apple's clouds, you have very limited control. As you know, with Apple products, you have it's pretty much they're kind of like Google. They tell you how it works, and they tell you how it's going to function. That's about it.
And if it goes wrong, it was all your fault. Nothing to do with them.
You should have backed up your stuff. Do you have a backup today? No, you don't. I'm sorry.
Make that appointment with the genius to tell you that.
Yeah, for 15 minutes.
I have the genius to tell you that.
And it's 40 minutes later after your appointment time. You're being told they can't help you.
You need to see an engineer, he said. Oh, okay. Well, how would I do that? Well, I don't know. Okay.
Wow.
Well, you're a genius.
So iTunes organization is definitely a very big one. Okay.
Big
Mhm,
one.
yeah.
Big one.
And then I'm trying to think here. I could throw in iBooks into the iTunes organization. Do you guys use iBooks?
That would be more for like the Mac. I mean, the iPad for your libraries.
Well, the good thing is that iBooks is now on the Mac too.
Oh, I didn't
They've
realize
added
that.
they've added that to the Mac also. So now you have iBooks on the Mac, the phone, and the iPad.
Is that where you can download books? Is that what?
You can you
Right.
can purchase books or download for free.
Okay.
You also, like little tad bit of information, if you have a library card and you're a library member, you can download free ebooks from the library online and then put them in the iBooks program.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. For those readers out there, it's a really nice little trick.
So yes, we'd like to learn about that.
Wow.
All those things that we don't know that exist, we'd like to learn about.
They didn't tell me that.
Where did you take your class?
Oh my gosh, I've taken tons of them because I
At the
paid
Apple
for this
store,
thing. I'm like,
right?
okay, my money's
Yeah,
worth out.
they have so you get a little insider knowledge about Apple. They have a lot of rules about what they can and can't tell you
Mm-hmm.
because of conflicts
I
of
could
interest.
tell.
And also, if they tell you to go somewhere for free, you're not going to buy from iBooks. And Apple is wonderful, but they are a company, and their primary goal is to
Right.
make their shareholders happy. So
Mhm.
they're never going to tell you about free stuff. And occasionally, someone might give you a little bit of a whisper of how to do something, but it's really frowned upon there.
Yeah, I got a couple whispers here and there, but
Yeah,
Nothing
the whispers happen
major.
occasionally, but they try not to because it comes back on them sometimes, and they could lose their job. So
oh, I totally get that.
yeah.
Yeah, they're very proprietary.
Okay, trying to look here. So outside of we talked about iTunes. iTunes was added organization. Microsoft and iWork workshop. When to use which programs. I'm trying to think what else. Anyone here using GarageBand? Like making their own music, ringtones.
I have that.
Maybe
one that I read.
outside of making music and ringtones, what about podcasts?
Yeah, I would like to know
I
how to
would
do
like
that.
I would like to know
Yeah.
how to do that.
Okay.
And I would like to know how to apply, like, not just stuff from iTunes, but other music for like videos and like home tours and that kind of thing.
So you're saying like taking music from other sources and and then your own personal video
Mm-hmm.
and then putting them together? Yes.
I mean, I've done it in a slideshow and stuff, but I haven't done it in the
We do it in iMovie,
okay.
Yeah.
so that would work.
Mhm.
And anyone here using Final Cut?
What's that?
Not yet.
It's the professional suite that Apple offers for movie editing. So, so most of the industry uses Final Cut or like, I'm trying to say, I think it's Adobe Premiere. There's a couple of other ones that they use, but that's Apple's version. But iMovie is very powerful. King Kong movie, all the pre-editing, all the capturing was all done in iMovie on site,
Really?
not done in a professional suite at all.
Now, movie it's specifically what you're saying. iMovie is for movies. Like you wouldn't take a series of photos and put it into iMovie
No, you
to
can
make
do that
it.
too.
Okay.
iMovie is designed to create a movie format,
Okay.
and that movie can
Whether it's a
incorporate
movie or not. Okay.
exactly. So it can incorporate photos
Mhm.
or incorporate videos or mixture of both. You can have video clips, photos, and music, and you can have voiceovers
Mhm.
and titles and transitions. Like literally, you can make it cinematic.
Okay. And what about words? Like say you want to add a quote in that.
You can do that. You can add titles and different lines. Yes.
Very good. Okay.
So back to the iPod. What is that podcast thing?
What is it?
What do you do? What would you use it for?
The podcast?
Mm-hmm.
So a podcast can, as you know, you may know, it can do audio or it can be video or both. Podcasts are great because you give a lot of classes to the moon. So say you have, like say your second development class you have, and people want to take it but they can't take it because they're not in the area. You can do podcasts and they can subscribe to those podcasts, and as you update them, it will give them notifications in their iTunes that you've added a new second development course, and then they would just get access to it. But you would charge them up front, and then you'd have access to that subscription. So this could be a way for you to stay in touch with your customers or as a photographer with your clients without having to be physically there. So it's almost like it's like a radio broadcast without having to be on the radio.
How would that vary from a YouTube type saved video thing? Or?
You have full control over it.
Okay.
Whereas YouTube has limits of time because it's dedicated server. They have a lot of users, so they have to limit what you can put on. Where a podcast can be an hour long.
Would that be like a webinar?
Exactly.
A webinar is like usually when there's a whole bunch of people on at one time, but then a podcast would be something you could purchase to watch yourself later or whatever.
A podcast is very similar to a webinar. It's some of the information is being given to you, whether it be learning something or just viewing something like something fun. Could be a snowboarding trip, or it could be as serious as calculus. It just depends upon what you want to create into it.
Okay.
Do you have to pay for it? Like
No.
Really?
GarageBand lets you create free podcasts, and it comes with the Mac. Every Mac has GarageBand.
So GarageBand's a platform to create podcasts in?
Yeah, it's a platform to create any kind of, I would say, sound-driven production. So
Even
you can
voice?
make, like I'm a singer-songwriter for a hobby, and I use GarageBand to record my own music. And you can create your own instrumental tracks, and you can then add your voice. There's different effects, so you can add different effects to your voice from GarageBand. You can edit it. You can then share it to iTunes as an MP3.
Can it make me a better singer?
can.
It's called digitizing.
Yeah, we have
right?
It's called. I'm sure I've heard of T-Pain, that singer.
Yeah.
Auto-tune is the feature. It's called pitch correction. You put it on, and whatever you're missing, it fixes it for you. All the singers now, all the really popular singers now, if you listen to their voices carefully, there's some kind of like robotic soundsman at the end of it that's auto-tune attached to it.
Wow.
Wow.
Because
Mhm.
most people have trouble keeping pitch perfectly.
So anybody can be a singer.
That's right.
It's very true. It's very true.
Go make a band.
But yeah, so GarageBand is a great feature. Podcasts, like I said, are great function. And like I said, the subscription part of it is the best part. And I think of your classes, because if you get so many classes, those who can't come could have access to it from remote access.
So I don't have to go through the online community, because that's how I have it all being funneled through there.
And you could post them on there, and they could go through there, and you could do the e-commerce through there if you want to do it that way.
It's like another avenue of doing that, though. That's kind of cool, because they already
You could
have
get to more people. You could offer it as one, maybe praise to the online community, and then another praise to the community at large.
And there is, you can use iTunes also as a medium, and iTunes is actually really cool. It's like, last time I checked, it was like $50 or $100 a year, and you have access to publish your creations on iTunes, the store. So you can create a podcast and then put it on iTunes and then charge for it. Or you can create a CD and put it on
So we could go
I don't know how to
to
do
the
that.
shop and search Laurie, and her podcast could pop up.
Yeah, I did that new crystal bowl meditation, and Kelly was going to help me put it on iTunes, and I wasn't able to do it.
Okay.
Huh.
That's gonna be really good for you.
Because everybody will go click a button.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's,
Yeah.
It would be great because you can put a link on it from your website, or communities, and just say, go to iTunes, check me out. Type in your name, and everything you have in iTunes will populate under your name. So if you have a CD and you have a podcast, it's all going to be in one place.
Wow.
and she could put like that iTunes, like
The little icon thing.
icon for iTunes.
Like you do for Facebook
Exactly.
and whatever.
And I believe that when you have an account with iTunes, they give you a hyperlink you can put on your sites that lets you link to your page. Or at least the iTunes store so they can search you. So it's a great avenue. I mean, many artists and professionals are using iTunes now as a medium because you don't have to pay a big marketing company to market your stuff now.
Wow.
With social media and Facebook, it's pretty incredible how you can market yourself so naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So we can work on that together.
That'll be very cool.
Definitely.
So many things.
There's a lot you can cover. Yeah.
So many different things we can do.
And do any of you teach?
I do.
You teach? What level do you
I teach elementary school right now.
Wonderful. And are you integrating technology in the classroom? What technology are you integrating?
Well, we use smart boards.
Very nice.
I mean, we're obviously in everything Microsoft Office, but I mean, so I'll use external like smart board programs or go off the web on Smart Exchange.
Yeah.
You know, for teachers and download
Some of those
things. I'll
schools
make
are-
my own thing. I'll make my own smart board games or
Very nice.
yeah.
Do you have an iPad also? Have you used the iPad with the smartboard yet?
I have not.
Okay. The reason why I asked the question is the past 2 years I worked at the Pinellas County School Board on integrating iPads with smartboard technology. So we were focused solely on figuring out how do we make this mobile device make your life easier as well as make the student's life enhanced. So if you decide to work
That would
together,
be
I could definitely help you
great.
with that also.
Yeah, that would be great to be able to share. Like, you know, if I had an app. I taught kindergarten for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought all these apps from the App Store, you know, like, and the kids would love it. But
And they
I
have
couldn't
use
always
it.
let them use my phone, you know? So I'm trying to, like, when we first got document cameras before I ever had a smart board, I would stick my phone under the document camera to project it on the board so we could use it, but then
Very
it was
nice.
still limited because they couldn't touch
Interact
it.
with it,
Yeah,
right.
I could only touch it, and then I didn't really trust them to touch it.
Well, there are accessibility features now, which actually spawned from the autism craze of the Apple devices. Autistic children were somehow gravitating to these devices, and Apple was like, this is actually a really great market, so let's focus on this. So they have a new system called Guided Access. I use it with my son. He's almost 2. And what you're able to do is you're actually able to disable every single button on your device,
So they can't like.
and
do
even
that.
certain buttons on the screen.
Really?
Wow.
So they only can do what's on what the app is doing.
Huh.
They can't exit out with the home button. They can't turn the
Right.
volume, that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
because they know how to
They can't hit
Oh,
the
they
sleep
sure
button.
do. That's I need to that's what you gotta do. all this
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like here.
They know.
my phone.
They know more than we do.
Absolutely.
Theodore has a comment. He said, "Smartboard teacher here too. I have not used iPad on Smart."
Wonderful. Well, hello, Theodore. If you like, I definitely can. Do we have his email?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be happy to email him information about how we can work together if you'd like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Definitely. Tell actually both of you, Jen and Theodore, check out the application called Doceri.
How do you spell that?
DOCERI.
And remember, he has a delay too, so he'll probably write something.
So I'll say DOCE.
Right.
Okay, got you. Go.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I typed it in for him, but the other part that you had mentioned about other information too.
Okay, wonderful.
And what does that do?
It's actually an application that will link your iPad. It creates the iPad into a smartboard device, which is kind of cool. So it lets you create multiple backgrounds for the smart. So you can have a chalkboard background, you can have a whiteboard background, you can
That's
record
cool.
your lessons. I'm not sure if you or Theodore are integrating flipped classroom design, but it's if you ever decided to do flipped classroom, I'm not sure if the school's allowing you to do that. I know the curriculums are very regimented and very much to the core. So let's focus there, right? So
No creativity allowed.
don't think.
He said hi, thanks, and he got it. Okay, so
Wonderful.
He's got the
But I would say, have you done any research on flipped classrooms before? Flipped classrooms are very, very cool. I did a little research project on that, and they're finding that the regular classroom settings are around 60% to 40% retention rates. Normally, with flipped, they're seeing up to 95% retention rates on the material because students are watching it at home, the lesson, and then they're coming to class and having the expert, you, teach them how to do the practice work. So they're at home
The opposite
learning.
of the homework.
Exactly. Homework's in classroom, not at
That's
home.
actually kind of how
Wow.
more private schools operate anyway. Like you do your real research, then you come in and interact with,
It's also a way to engage the parents because the parents have to watch with the children. So it gives the parents a chance to see what they're learning, and then also they can discuss it and think of questions, and then they can bring the questions to class. So it's a really good way to kind of enhance the learning process. And I found that some teachers who are having trouble because of the curriculum guidelines, they're doing it for, like I say, if you're teaching math, they do it for like math. They'll do the math lesson and they'll send it home as the homework is just to watch the whole math video, and then they come in class and do the math homework in class. And that way you
Makes
can
so
guide
much
them
more
through
sense.
it.
It does actually because I can get them to do the homework.
My printer is printing.
It's that cloud.
My printer's printing.
Is it really?
Yeah. By the way, Theodore said, you hear it?
Yes.
Probably all my documents that didn't print at the office. I have no idea what this thing is except
He said, our teacher is now bringing content through to art. So that would be, wait, you might have to write that. That's what he said. Our teacher now bringing content through to art.
maybe our teacher's math.
Maybe. Yeah.
Or maybe the art teacher is being able to. It's like our music teacher.
Oh, maybe he's saying you're allowed to have a little more flexibility.
Maybe.
Might be.
Because I think our music teacher for sure.
Can bring
He's
in
like
this.
amazing, and I think he's got
He's limiting people's
things that
creativity.
we don't get to.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll probably answer that in a
Man,
second.
I didn't get to have that.
There are. Do you, what what content do you teach? You teach all the
I
content?
teach all the content.
Okay, I figured you would because you said elementary school.
What grade do you teach in?
Have you,
What's your first?
I'm sure you've done research on like applications you can bring to the classroom, the apps or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I haven't purchased any since I switched, since kindergarten. I still have all my kindergarten ones actually because I purchased them, so they're mine. I just deleted them. But then I went to second grade and they were too babyish. They were too low for them. Now I'm back in first, but I'm wanting to kind of eventually get out of that. But in the meantime, while I'm there, I want to make it fun for them.
Of course. Gamification is a huge,
I just
great
see
way in
how
that
they
way.
gravitate to this stuff. It's just,
It's what they do every
and I
day.
don't have enough computers for them all. So if I could find a way to get it up there, because like the smart board today, I had them all up there with the game, and my assistant principal came in and he was like, he sat down and he was watching for a while.
See, he was even engaged.
I mean, yeah, they were like just these goofy characters that come across the screen when they get a problem right. It's like they're just like,
It's a reward.
That's
yeah,
right.
They're like,
They're happy.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's all
yeah.
that matters.
But give them a worksheet, they're like, and I don't blame them because I'm like, yeah, really.
It's boring. I get it.
I get it, yeah. Like,
But I
Well,
mean-
a lot of schools are going to no paper at all. Like my son's boarding school, they only had the
Computer?
yeah,
no,
the tablet.
the tablet.
Yeah.
They all had iPads. No books at all. All their textbooks were on the iPad.
Makes sense. Cheaper for the school.
Yeah.
And they get the most updated information without having to physically buy new books.
Exactly, and not that hurts our backs either.
Mhm.
Those heavy books.
Mhm.
So, I'm trying to think here with the core. Trying to figure this out. So gamification. Okay. Have you seen the applications that let you capture and maintain your work, like the grading of the work?
Mhm.
There's applications that will actually let you capture. Let's say they're working on a worksheet.
Mhm.
When they get done, you can take a picture of it. It syncs it to this application, and you're in the application when you do it. Take a picture of it, and it literally logs it under the student's name, and then it actually creates a social community online where you can share just with the parents
Mhm.
the work and the grading, and then they can comment. You can comment on their comments. So it's kind of like a way of you integrating parents into the. I mean, of course, you have to get approval through
Right.
the school because of the social part of it, but there are tons of education apps. It's just a matter of figuring out which one you can work with.
Mhm.
Have you gone to your IT department yet and asked them?
No, I haven't. And actually, he's a big Apple guy.
Ask him, because I'm sure if he's a big Apple guy, he may have been asking them for money to download applications. You might have a list of approved applications that the school has that you can use in the classroom.
Okay.
I bet you Theodore's gonna check on that too.
It's definitely one of the better things. There's also a bunch of core curriculum applications for iPad too.
Oh, there is?
Yes,
Okay.
and it centers around the core. It's actually
Isn't that cool?
and there's also a core application that shows you all of the I would say the statutes
Mhm.
that are required for the core and for every subject,
So what would
and
you
what needs to be
search?
covered in comprehension in that topic.
Oh, wow.
What would you search to see what apps are available for these types of things? Just curriculum or core curriculum, or
Actually, the really cool part is that on the I would say on the iPad, because that'd be the best device to do it on. If you go into the App Store, there's actually a part there's an education store,
Okay.
but there's actually a section apps for teachers.
Okay.
So look in that section,
Okay.
and it's literally just apps designed for teachers on becoming more productive, more efficient, more effective, as well as keeping up to date on the Common Core.
are there any apps for preparing for like the SAT or anything like that?
Tons of them.
Really?
Tons of them.
Okay.
SAT, MCATs, GREs, any test you can think of, there's an
Right.
application for it.
Really?
You
You
wanna
just
get-
search right in the App Store.
Mhm. If you want to get a personal certification exam test, like application, there's one for that. And you have test examples, test questions.
Wow.
There's really fun one for history. I'm not sure what history level they go to that age, but there's one that actually like asks the question, then it kind of makes like fun noises and sounds and does things when they get the right answer. So it's
Same like yours.
great for like I would say like starting your day the subject you're starting with. I found that a lot of teachers that I worked with in the adult education, they have a lot of students that, dropped out of school and came back for the GED. And they would find that they use an application to start the class. So they'll start the class with a game on an application of a topic they're covering. And that way it kind of brings the students engagement. So it kind of follows I'm not sure if you're familiar with John Keller, but he's a big profound researcher in the motivation of learners. But John Keller has like an ARCS model, ARCS. It's attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. And those are the 4 areas that he feels are most prevalent for motivation, for intrinsically and extrinsically. So he's definitely someone that I would say, if you're looking for motivation captures, like he's something you can look into also.
Okay. Yeah, because the intrinsic thing, that's hard.
It's
Especially
so
with
hard.
little ones. Because they want that external gratification.
Yeah. They want it now and they want it to happen right then.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to wait.
It's no fun watching someone else do something,
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Okay, I'm trying to see here. We've covered a lot so far. Anything else that you guys can think of that you might want to talk about? Oh, feel free. Go ahead. Yeah. It was great meeting you, Andrea.
I know, well, there's lots more I'd like to talk to you about, so, but I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll let you out.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to.
No, I'm fine. It's okay. Andrew, no, you're fine.
You're good.
It's okay. You're
You're
good.
totally fine. No worries
I
at all.
just asked Theodore if there was anything else.
You.
I just realized what time was, and I have to pick him up at Naples at 8.
No, that's okay. No worries.
Well, it's not 15, so and he'll be like, wow.
You said
You know.
Here you go, Andrea.
nothing from him right now.
Terrific, thank you, and I will probably email you, and then you will have all my.
Wonderful. Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Do you need some help?
Yeah, do you want some help?
Wants to walk you out?
You're gonna love it. I got do this all day long.
She's got fresh.
Professional tutor.
Professional
You too. I don't know. Next time. You too, Stephan.
Nice meeting you too, Andrea.
Wow, I didn't know that there was all that stuff.
It's tough because they don't really bring it up, and the schools, they have difficulty with the funding, so they don't want to bring up too much because then you guys are going to be asking for a lot.
Right.
Well, to them it's a lot. I think for us as educators, it's really necessity. Our students are
think-
asking for it.
I see all the money they waste.
Mm-hmm.
Textbooks is a good example. They buy a new textbook series every so many years, and then the publisher must require them to purchase like a package of things. Well, half of the stuff sits in the saran wrap or whatever, the shrink wrap, and never gets touched. So all that money just goes to waste. And then even with the little kids, they can't read yet, they have a textbook. How much money did they pay for a textbook that I'm reading to them? Whereas if they could go and do something with, an iPad or a smart board interacting with the iPad, it would be so much more economical.
Definitely.
I mean, would you think that would be cheaper than buying all those books and storing them? And just the time we spend toting them back and forth and checking them in and checking them out. And just, I don't know, coming from the business world and going into education, like so many things they do don't make sense to me.
They don't run it as a business.
It's hard. It's like, this is not efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are wasting money. So, yeah. But I'm definitely going to ask about some of these things. I know, I think Tortuga Elementary, the new elementary, I want to say that was my old principal.
Okay.
I want to say that they're just about fully, they have the iPads and stuff instead of books. Like they're one of these STEM schools.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're a STEM school. And I think this year they just doubled their population. They have a hydroponic garden.
Wow.
They have, all the arts obviously, but everything is technology driven.
Now, is the STEM school still funded by the state, or is it funded by a different organization or multiple?
I'm not sure of. I know they're a Title I school, so they do get additional funding
Okay.
like that. But I'm gonna guess because they are a STEM school and that's what it sounds like that's where education is wanting to go.
Yeah.
Overall, because it just incorporates everything. That they probably do get extra money from the state or the federal government, but I'm not really sure how it works.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Let's look into that. Definitely. Well, I found this application for the computer. It's a Common Core. It has all the grade levels. It's not, you can't open it. I haven't downloaded it, but it's one option there that's for the Mac.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they made it feasible, like through Wi-Fi or whatever, I could feasibly take my app or my computer to school if I downloaded the app.
Mm-hmm. And the iPad
And
has
have
core apps also, so you can bring your
Okay.
iPad in instead of bringing your
Okay.
computer.
Okay.
I mean, you could do both,
Okay.
but the cool thing about those series that I've told you about is that you can control the smartboard as well as the desktop through your iPad.
Oh,
So you actually can see your desktop screen and go to your start menu and do all your fun stuff there too,
okay.
all from behind the classroom.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and a lot of teachers that I was working with, they actually they're working like on a math problem. They would give the student the iPad, and the student would write the problem out on the virtual chalkboard on the Siri. It would show up on the smartboard. And then another student would get up and they would go in and they would explain, like write out the steps of what they did. So it'd be like one person like writes it out, just the equation and the answer, and the other person would then write the steps and kind of making it more of a community feel.
Wow. It's kind of amazing what technology can do.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. All right.
All right, I think we covered quite a bit.
I think we did
A
too.
lot to work with.
Yeah.
I have some homework to do and some talking to do with Lori.
All right, yeah. Good stuff.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I appreciate your time. I really do.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. We're going to say goodbye on Google.
Thank you guys for being a part of it. Theodore, thanks for your questions.
Okay, so I don't know how to stop that then.
Oh, let me just exit. And then we'll just go like this.
Look, my pages is running, and now I see the light. I never saw that.
There, you're screen sharing right now.
Oh, stop.